Okay, I think we are live. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Arayeh, your rapid transformational coach in the areas of parenting, relationship, and life coaching. And today I am going to continue our talk with my special guest again about digital screenings in families, because just this is a phenomenon that a lot of families are struggling with, including myself. And before I jump in, with that conversation with Dr. Demi, I am going to share a poll that I created in my group, parenting support group, Parent from Love. Okay, so here are the results before we continue. I'm just gonna read them for you. So 48% of the people, so I had around 25 parents who replied to my questions, and there were like 3 options. 48% of the parents, they said, my children do not have smartphones and or gaming systems and spend less than 2 hours on other devices such as TV. This is great news. At least almost half the people are doing this, but I'm suspecting they have younger children. So this might, when people have teenagers and twins, this might not be the case, but I don't know how old their children are, but it's kind of good. 18% they said my children have smartphones and or gaming systems, but I use them less than 2 hours a day. This is perfect. This is probably where we want to be. I want to be in no gaming and no smartphone, but I know for a fact that a lot of families think this is just absolutely not possible. I actually talked to one of my clients yesterday after talking about no screening, no smartphone for children last week, I think, and she said, you know what, if I do that, I'll be dead. That's exactly what she said. So here's the painful part. 34% of the parents said, my children have smartphones and or gaming systems. I use them the majority of the day. Mm-hmm. So here's why we are doing this, why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, because this is not okay. And I know we are all feeling overwhelmed, and I could be, on some days I fell into that category, and I'm struggling every day. A lot of people know, my audience know, that I have this is my daily struggle. So I come up with different digital contracts now, how to go about it, if it's my son, if it's me. So we do all sorts of things. So I understand the dilemma, I understand the struggle, but as parents we feel guilty. I do a lot of times, but I know for a fact that a lot of families, because they're working at home and they cannot accommodate their children with outside activities all the time, and monitor them and connect with them at all times, and somehow unfortunately our children end up on screening, and it's kind of like a vicious cycle. We feel bad, they feel bad, because it's addictive. We've talked about it so much. But so I brought Dr. Demi today. She has a doctorate in psychology. She is the co-founder of the Beyond Limits Way. And this is what it says on their website, the beyondlimitsway.com. Technology should enhance our children's lives, not control them. Let us show you how to make this happen. And now here's Dr. Demi, and I am so pumped to know how that is done. So please introduce yourself. Tell us about your journey, how many kids you have, how you came to be the co-founder of this service, and just enlighten us.
Okay, I got you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for that wonderful intro. I think you really nailed the problem, right? It's so many of us wish that this problem would go away, and yet we're stuck with it in a variety of ways. And I'm Demi, and I'm a psychologist as well as a mom. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And like you, in both areas of my life, I've seen this problem just grow in intensity over the last decade, clinically with my patients and families I work with, and then in my own home. I'm like, oh wow, we have to do something about this, right? And we characterize this problem in so many ways, but here's the way I think about it. I think that these devices that we have, right, that are central in our lives and our children's lives, they are designed to keep us distracted, hooked, and insecure. Those are the words that for me really nail what I see in my home and what I see clinically. And yet, all of us at some point or another, and all of our children, whether it's that we wait until they're older or they get it when they're younger, we feel bad about it, we don't feel bad about it. At some point, everybody's life is going to sort of revolve around these screens in some way, some capacity. And I began to see in my work and my home life that we are, I believe, sort of failing our kids if we don't teach them how to interact with these devices in a healthy way, right? How are we going to expect our kids to stay healthy, to learn, to have healthy social relationships, to stay connected to themselves and know how to look inward instead of always outward in a distracted way? We know these are the qualities of a healthy life. And how do we teach our kids to have this when at this point, they and us and everybody is interacting with screens designed to really do just the opposite? So this is the question that I set out to answer. I was like, we have to do something. We are failing here because we can't just take them away. For many of us, that's not realistic. I'm all in support of waiting and learning how to see if they're harming our kids, which I talk a lot to my parents about. But at some point, it's inevitable for our kids as well as for us. So we have to do this somewhat differently. And by training, I'm a DBT therapist. So I have a specialty in a special, like as kind of a sub-treatment in the clinical world, where I teach for the last 15 years, I've taught adolescents and families a skill set for managing impulsive behaviors and intense emotions. So I was like, okay, there is something that our field has to offer that has not yet really been named and categorized and packaged in a way that parents can understand, that will actually train our kids to interact in healthy ways with their devices. And the way that I see it, that's the only option at this point, right? To think of this like a training. I liken it to driver's ed, right? Because cars and screens, they don't have everything in common, but they've got some things in common in the sense that they are dangerous potentially, they're high risk, and they're also kind of cornerstones of modern life. Most of us don't get away with, not having cars or phones. Or devices of some sort. And so the analogy there is that they both require training, and we train effectively. We train our kids to drive safely for the most part. And we have to take the same mentality for screens. What does it take to train our kids to interact with these devices that are designed to hook and control and distract them in ways that actually keep them healthy and safe? And so that is my mission in life at this point.
Wow.
And I will give you some answers to that here today.
I know, I cannot wait, seriously, because it's, to me, we've done all sorts of, options. I've taken it away,
right?
I've given it to them all the way, and like
right.
screening 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5, like I've done everything. So it's just, I feel, especially the gaming. I don't know if your children are not old enough to get into Fortnite and stuff. And I recommend that you never, ever, ever, if they don't have it, never, ever get Xbox or anything like that. But I didn't know. Like I was researching, but I was not in the know of it, because we are the first generation. Like we are figuring it out.
That's right.
Children, right? There's nothing out there, and especially if there are some research, but they are not public. Here's the thing: I wanted to research with my son, and I put like the side effects or bad harms of gaming, and guess what? The first thing that popped up was actually something good about the game. And he's like, see, here's science. So here's the Google and all these search engines and everything is geared towards more consumption of, and the research is not publicized. So we are in the unknown, and we don't know. We are figuring it out. If we are diligent about this research. If not, we say, okay, it's just a game. They're learning.
It's fine. Right.
Exactly. And they're they will say, wow, my son is doing this, such an expert, like he's getting smart at it, but really some parts of the brain are not being properly developed because
right
using them.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested right now. You have no idea.
Okay, well, I will give you some ideas here. So,
yeah.
Right. I mean, I think you're really hitting on the problem, right? It's like the technology itself is designed in a way, I mean, the business model of the developers of, Google, from Google to Fortnite to, Facebook to Instagram to, even Netflix, or the things that our younger children enjoy watching and interacting with, YouTube, all of this, the business model of all of these tech companies is the more time we spend, the more attention we give to their platform, the more money they make in 15 different ways, right? And so what we're dealing with is actually going against the design. I mean, these devices are very well designed, and the reason it's not so publicized about all of this is because the places we would go to look are part of this sort of business that has, is billion-dollar industry that's designed to kind of keep us hooked and extract our attention. So it's going to have to be, I mean, I believe that ultimately the solution is going to have to be in regulation and having people design platforms that are actually designed with user well-being in mind. And currently that's not the business model. So we parents are going to have to be at the forefront of a movement where we demand something greater here. But in the meantime, we have to deal with the reality that we have, and we've got to equip our kids with a skill set for this, right? And the way that I put it to kids and to parents is that screen time can stay healthy. I won't say that. You said to me earlier when we were talking, like, in my bones, I know it would be right for all of us to not have these. And I agree, right? And if we think of healthy on a spectrum, there is a way to interact with screens that is decently healthy. And there are also several very predictable ways in which the devices can hook us, and screen time can become very unhealthy for our kids and for us, right? Our lives can get very out of balance. Because of the way the devices are designed, we can be really wanting to, our brain chemistry can actually change to where all we want to do is screens. We can get sucked into kind of rabbit holes and get very distracted and unable to focus and learn. So there's these predictable ways that screen time can go awry. But the good news is there's also what I call a road to healthy screen time. And so the kind of the vision here, before I get into the nuts and bolts, is that if we can train ourselves and our kids to notice when we're veering off into those, unhealthy domains, if we have the awareness of what those domains are, and when we start to veer off with our mindfulness skills and, a skill set that I'll talk about in a minute, we can keep ourselves on the healthy road. When we understand that it's in our well-being, and we can start to notice those indicators that we're getting off, right? I can't stop watching Netflix. It's now 1 a.m. I am out about, like, I'm getting off. Like, my kid is on Fortnite and that's all they think about, and they throw a tantrum when off the road. That's what I would say is not healthy screen time. So all of these indicators, these problems that we have with screens, are really just indicators that we are not on the road to healthy screen time, right? So when we think about it that way, we can begin to apply what we know in other areas of parenting and psychology, right? How do you develop awareness of when we're getting off track, and a skill set for staying on track? Okay, so that's sort of the picture I want to start to think about this. To how many is the right amount of hours, or is this right game right for my kid? Just sort of taking a little paradigm shift and thinking about it like, am I on the road to healthy screen time? Is my kid on the road to healthy screen time? Or are we having tantrums? Do they seem hooked, or do I seem hooked? So just starting there, right? That's sort of a conceptual shift for a lot of parents.
Like a yellow light, right?
Like a what?
Like a yellow light.
Exactly, like a yellow light, right? You're on a road. I mean, think of it teaching our kids to drive. Like, there's a healthy, safe way to drive, and there's a lot of predictable for unhealthy driving. We can run stop signs. We can forget to let pedestrians have the right of way. We can go too fast. And those would all be, when you teach a kid to drive, you're developing awareness that they're outside of the realm of safe and healthy. If they can stay in the realm of safe and healthy, they get to enjoy driving, right? And I would say the same with our screens. Like if we can stay within the realm of safe and healthy, we can get off when it's time. We don't have a massive tantrum when it's time to log off, right? We can play games, but also do other activities in our life. We are driving safely. We can enjoy our devices. They can enhance our lives, and we can know that us and our kids are sort of okay, right?
You're showing me, like you're describing a utopia for me, and I'm like,
okay, well, let me tell you how to get there. So that's the way I want you to think about it. And it's important to like kind of couch it in that, so that we parents don't get off track, because otherwise this area of home life gets so scary and overwhelming that we start to parent out of fear, out of guilt, out of judgment, out of blame, out of all of these things that we all try so hard not to parent from. We want to parent from love and connection, right? But then screen time comes and we're like, ah, right? And we have these like knee-jerk reactions. And so my first, I'm going to give you like 3 solid pieces of advice, and numero uno is this one. It has to start with how we talk about screen time with our kids. It has to start, and I know this is, in line with your philosophy and absolutely in line with mine. It has to start with staying connected with our kids in this area of home life. And because it's such a scary area, it is one where we get more reactive. Our kids are certainly reactive. They're like clinging to these devices, especially older kids, right? They're the lifeline to their friends, their social life. The kids are reactive. And if we're not careful, we can get very reactive around screen time as well. So it starts with what I call a certain mindset, which is how do we talk with our kids in a way that stays connected instead of reactive around it, right? And so what I first start with parents talking about is that instead of blaming our kids for the problems that they're having with screen time, I think it's really important to blame the devices. So that every time we talk about it, we say to our kids, hey, this happens to me too. It's not our fault. The fact is that these devices are designed in a way to hook us, and those designers are really, really good at what they do. So each time our kid goes over time or begs for Fortnite, we kind of couch it in a different way. We're in it with them, right? We all are struggling with this. And so it's a mindset shift. I always tell the story of my older daughter started begging for a phone. She's now 9, but I don't know, for whatever reason, this kid started begging for a phone when she was like 5. And for years, I was like, phones are for older kids. No, you can't have a phone, like really kind of reactive around it, right? And then one day I took my own advice and I kind of got down at her level and I said, you know what? Her name is Marina. I said, you know what, Marina? I'm going to be really honest with you here. I said, I love my phone. My phone is always two centimeters away from my hand, right? Do you know that? I said, I love my phone and I want you to have a phone one day and I want you to love it and get as much enjoyment out of your phone as I get out of my phone. I said, but I have to teach you how to get there because these phones can be tricky and I need to show you how to, I need to train you for that day. And it was like this whole paradigm shift between us, right? Now we're on the same team. I want her to have a phone. She wants herself to have a phone. And we have a journey together, which is how do we stay connected in a training process so that she one day can enjoy her devices in a healthy, safe way. About driving with our kids. Of course I want you to drive, honey. I just have to show you how. And when we do it that way, it's a huge difference in just beginning the journey with our kid.
I love that. I think I mentioned it was 2 months ago, one of my videos, the same thing happened to me because it's an epiphany that we have first and then we can convey it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I'm just fighting with them.
Right.
It's not them who am I fighting with. So I told them, you know what? I give up. I give up. I'm tired of fighting this dark force. I call it dark force. I'm dramatic about this. I call it dark force. I say, I'm fighting you. We are fighting each other. but while we have to fight the dark force together, because they know all about, the addiction, that my children are 11 and
Right.
they know, they've seen the social dilemma, they've seen so many videos in the past 3 years, so they know. But the fact is that it's just so attractive, right?
Yeah.
They feel this
Well, it's designed so well, right?
Exactly.
They're really good at what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They like to fill that void within themselves, because I
Right.
find they have addiction psychologists to help them design these games, right? So it's
They
really
have books written about how to make, I mean, why start by showing parents a model that is used throughout the development industry about how to make the platforms as hooking as possible. I mean, it's an overt effort.
exactly. So I showed it to them, and instead of, like, I shifted my perspective, shifted my energy, that I'm not gonna
Yeah.
you. Let's come to the same side of the battle. That's
Right.
the course. Let's see what we can do about that.
Yes.
This is what I tell them. Like, I say, I want you to enjoy yourself, exactly what you said.
Yeah.
But let's figure this out, because this is
Right.
kind of ruining our peace. So
Yeah.
this is beautiful. It's just
And
shifting perspective.
that's the paradigm shift, is how we talk about it with them, right? And that's what I mean by sort of taking what I would call clinically a skills-based approach, and for parents to sort of think that way, like, this is a training process. This doesn't have to be a battle. Me and my kid, especially if I start young enough, and I'm going to put a pitch out there for all the families listening to start at 8, 9 years old, because the kids are still really interested in our worldview at that age. It changes a little bit as they get older, right? Where their friendships and their social world become more influencing. But young, we can really get this paradigm shift going with them, right? My 9-year-old and my 7-year-old, we talk all the time about, this is a training process. I'm here to train you. And I want you to have it, and I want you to enjoy it. So I can literally tell them, go enjoy your screen time, if I have trained them in the right way. So that's my first, like, real solid what to do. Start talking about it in exactly that way that you're describing. And I call it a mindset shift. We want to go from blaming our kid to blaming the devices, from judging their screen time to being, finding the value, like showing them that we understand their interest in their screens. We understand what's appealing and attractive, so that we don't lose that connection. And then go ahead.
One more thing will be, like, not hating it.
Yeah.
Because I hated it. Like, I still do. Like, I have this aversion. I abhor it. But as you said at the beginning, it's just, we're going to that direction. Everything's going to be digitized. So it's going to be our life. So not hating it, I think, will help us to find better solutions. That just, hating, I give it to you, but I hate it. So it's kind of very icky energy going on. So
absolutely. And the more we hate it, the more our kids love it. I mean, that's the other problem, is once we take a I hate it stance, the only thing that's sort of left over there is like, I want it, I love it. So when we can shift and we're like, hey, this is a difficult, tricky device. These screens are tricky and hard. Those are the words I use with my kids. They're tricky. But I can show you how to engage with them in a healthy way. Now we can sort of let go of some of that I hate it energy and bring in a little bit more of, like, acceptance. It is what these are here at this point. It's kind of the as is. And from there, we can talk about how to train our kids to onboard with them and to use them in a way, to interact with them in a way that keeps them healthy and balanced. And the kids get on board with this. So here's my second, and I think this is a nice segue into it, because the next thing that's really important to do, in a way, feels like the opposite of first, but it's not actually. And it is to the good news. I think there's really one rule, screen time. And I'm going to give it to you and your listeners.
Can you just repeat on the past 2 sentences?
Oh, yeah. I think the next step, right? Just like if you're getting in the car with your kid to learn to drive, the next step is to establish the ground rules for how is this process going to proceed. And the good news is, I think there's really only one rule we need for screen time. But we need to be really clear on this rule, and our kids need to understand it. And if you get this rule in place, you are really on your way to kind of having some solutions for this problem. So here's the rule. Ready? You tell your kid and you tell yourself, and you try to remember this as much as you can, right? That you get more screen time, more freedom, more independence, more discretion, more of all the thing our kids want when you use screens in healthy ways and unhealthy ways. And what underlies that rule is the reality, and I explain this to kids in my course, and I also explain it to my own children, that off. If you are conversing with strangers in chat rooms or in, on these games that you're playing, if you are obsessed and it's all you want to do, right? That shows me that you're hooked. It shows me that the design of the device, you're not yet, your skills ready to handle the level of screen time that you have. So I've got to roll it back and give you only what you can handle in a healthy way. Now, the good news is I'm going to teach you, I tell my kids, right? I'm going to teach you how to use it in a healthy way so that you can get more independence, more screen time, etc. But if you're using it in unhealthy ways, you're showing me that you don't know how to do that yet. Now, when I see you logging off without a problem, when I see your life being balanced and full and screen time is only one small part of it, when I see that you can play games and, not chat with strangers and do all those things, now I'm seeing a kid who can handle the level of screen time that they have, and they can have it, or maybe even try a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean necessarily amount of time, but a little bit more independence, a little bit more freedom. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. So do you have any recommendation for the hours? Like, does it depend on?
Okay, this is the question I get every time, right? And I think we have that 2-hour marker, right? Which I think is sort of like a good, más o menos, like it's a good ballpark figure. But I actually think it's useful to think about the amount of time in a little bit of a different way. So I talk about thinking about the amount of time in like kind of a functional way, right? Because I've seen certain kids where because they're grumpy when they get off, they want more, they can't stop thinking about it. They're hooked after only 2 hours. And I've seen other kids that 2 hours is totally fine. They can handle it. They can be skillful. They can get off when it's dinner time and it's really not a problem. So the way I think of it is 2 ways to figure out how much time. Number one is you want to make sure that you're not seeing adverse effects of screen time. Your kid is not hooked, right? Can they log off on time? Can they do it without a tantrum? Are they grumpy when they get off? Are they obsessed with it? Is it all they think about? Those would be all indicators to me that they're too hooked and probably need a little less than whatever you're giving them. Are they doing dangerous things on there? Is their neck hurting? Are their eyes getting, these are all the indicators that they have too much. Maybe it's 4 hours and need to roll back to 3, or maybe it's an hour needs to roll back to half an hour. So really looking at the impact it's making on our kids, and then also looking at how their time is spent, right? I call this balanced screen time, is that they need to be doing, screen time can be one element of their lives, but they need to be almost every day engaging in other elements. They need to be having face-to-face time with family and friends. They need to be exercising kids' life. Are they engaging in all those areas? If the answer is yes, then their screen time is pretty in balance with their life. And that could be half an hour, it could be an hour, 2 hours, maybe for some older kids, it's even more. But are they nailing schoolwork? Are they still into soccer and gymnastics and still playing the guitar on their own sometimes? Do they have some development? Is it kind of choppy here?
It gets choppy, yes.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well. I don't know what to do. It's just this.
It's okay.
Yeah, it happens. So thinking of it in terms of like, is their life well-rounded? We need our kids to have some unstructured time, some exercise. So I name these 6 areas of life that our kids need to engage in most days. And if they're engaging in them, then, their screen time is in balance. And if they're engaging in them and they're screened and they're not being harmed, they're not grumpy, they can log off, they can, think about other things, then they're not that hooked. And so we're in the zone of healthiness, right? And one strategy I just want to give to all the families, especially here in COVID, that I find extremely helpful in establishing that balance is to set aside screen times during the day that are just like my kids' screen time is 4 to 5 every night. It's when I'm cooking, it's when they're grumpy. We all benefit from them being on the screens, right? Now they know it's 4 to 5 every night. So if they ask me at noon, can I have my screen? I say, oh, screen time's at 4, right? Nail your other 6 areas. Make sure you've exercised. Make sure you've had some playtime, some unstructured time. Even our preteens and teens need it. Make sure you've hung out with me, had some face-to-face time. You've nailed all those things. You've done your chores. You've hit your 6 areas. 4 o'clock screen time. Enjoy. And that's a nice way to keep it balanced. Maybe our older kids might not just do okay with one window. They might need an hour in the middle of the day where they can connect with their friends, and then another hour at the end of the day where they can reconnect and play their games. But if you schedule it out, the kids know what to expect. They can coordinate with their friends. You know what to expect, and it gets rid of a lot of that gray area when it comes to amount of time and balance in their life.
I love that. So to be honest, I'm proud of myself because that's exactly what we nailed down this.
Yay!
Because I love them not to be, actually, you know what, it helped because I do believe this is what I teach. So it's always in the energy of the parent. If we are wishy-washy with our energy,
that's right.
Feeling guilty, if we want them, it's easier. Of course, it's easier if they're on the screen, right? I can do whatever I want.
Right.
So less struggle. But if you're really adamant, if you're really sure and certain of our own point of view, and we know we are the adults, we see the future, we know what's going to happen.
Right. And we know what they need to be able to do to interact wisely. So they might want all this time, but we know that these
Yeah. So I got that for a couple of days. I said, I can't, this is not doable. We can't do this because every time, so we had that agreement, like 2 hours, but it would extend and it was grumpy. And so I said, you know what, I'm going for a challenge, a 7-day challenge, no screen. I was like, no. And this time when I talked to him and he said, what's the difference? Like every time we come up with a digital contract, it just gets, messed up.
Right.
I said see what he said. He said, this time I know you mean it. I could feel it in your energy that you're not going to give up. So this time I'm going to listen.
I'm going to do it. Yeah.
So it is actually working. So he's getting only 2 hours. So at the end of the 2 hours, he gives me his phone and the cable.
Yeah.
I said, I'm sitting here. I'm not coming. I'm not going to police you anymore.
That's right.
And so he brings them so we can get it the next day. And he's getting it because like this morning, he said, can I have 4 hours tomorrow? And then 1 week, not at all. And I said, yeah, that's a great deal. I'm going to take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I said, are you sure? He said, yeah. And then I went out and came back and said, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm not going to have like 2 weeks, 4 hours. So anyways, but you are absolutely right. So I'm putting the responsibility on him.
That's right.
The only thing that worked now in the past, we didn't even have a TV. I bought a TV after 8 years, last month. And the Xbox, I don't know, I was just what happened? I bought it last year. I feel so horrible about it. But so the thing is this, I have been struggling for the past year, right?
Yeah.
And it's only now that it's working only because I know it in my heart with every bone in my body, like every cell in my body.
You got clear.
This is not working.
Yep.
I can't take this anymore. Our family is it's taking such a toll on our family and our peace, and like everything is just so demonized. I don't like that word, but really it's really bad when it comes to screaming. So my energy is so clear that he can pick up on it, and it's not the wood. It's working.
Yes. Well, the clarity, and I think, just to validate for us as parents, as you said earlier, we don't know how, we're all just inventing this as we go, right? But if you can get clear on the times of day that you're going to give them their screen, and then at the end of that time, it's over, The silver lining is that you're having them practice every day a skill that they're going to need for adulthood, which is logging off and putting it away and shifting their attention to the next thing. And from a brain chemistry perspective, you want, if the brain has too much screen time in a row, gets flooded with dopamine, and then the next thing they do doesn't feel as fun for them.
Boring.
And so you want it to be in the door from 12 to 2 after lunch or after school or whatever, and then another hour from 4 to 5, or 2 hours in a row, but then variation throughout the day. Exactly. And each time you put it, when you show them how to log off on time, and the rule is that if you want more screen time and you want to continue your screen time, you have to do it in a healthy way. And unhooking at the end of your time is a huge part of being healthy. It's really difficult. We all struggle with it. And if you can do it, and I have some skills I talk to the kids about how to log off that make it a little bit easier, then you can continue to be trusted. Then I know that I call it, you're in the zone of screen time you can handle. Yes. Because you can log off and you can give me your device, right?
Yes.
And so when it's
license.
Sorry?
The driver's license.
Yeah, you've got yeah, exactly. If we're driving in a parking lot, maybe for younger kids, it's half an hour. They get to watch one cartoon, and then the challenge is, can you bring me the iPad and log off on your own? And then it's yay, right? You start in this really easy area, and then you build from there. And if your kid is bringing you the device, logging off, keeping it to the 2 hours, not begging the whole time, again, not interacting with strangers, staying safe while they're on, then they are driving. They're driving in a healthy way, and we get to feel like we are okay. Roblox is in our house, or these games that we never meant to bring in. But the silver lining is that our kid is practicing a skill set that they're really going to need for adulthood.
Yes.
Because we all have to be able to log off effectively. Otherwise, our lives kind of tank with these devices. So,
yeah. And I think it's the connection that we talked about at the
yes.
beginning is super important, because it's all about what we are teaching. It's not about, because as you know, conscious parenting, we are aware that we are not going with our ego, because
right.
most of the time we get bothered when they do not comply, because our inner child is feeling hurt and out of control. So it's so important to have awareness of that, and just say, let's deal with the problem at hand. Let's not add, let's not project my influence to the situation.
Yeah.
So how can I go about this situation? And when we are connected with our children, like that's what I told my son. I said, because the games are so stimulating, that everything else becomes so boring. Like you want to drop out of, like he says, boring. School is boring. I don't want that attitude from this. That your brain cannot handle this.
That's right.
So I want you to be really excited about it. So I know it's boring compared to the game, but I want you to enjoy your classmates that are online, and talk to them. And as you said, I said like at least 2 hours. I know this is not so healthy, but at least it's something like at least 2 hours of no screening at all. Like I want you to do something that is, reading a book, skateboarding, or something that is not at all.
Some unstructured time where they have to kind of go inward and see what they feel like doing, and stay connected with their inborn self, their interests, it's what I call boredom, right? Our kids need to be bored every day. They need to be bored. It's incredibly good for their brain and for their kind of healthy personal development as well.
Exactly. But the problem is that now that I have the TV after 8 hours, then they want to go to TV. I know it's better than the game and the social media, but so this is what I told him. I said, even if you're on TV, you're going to be watching educational things.
Yeah.
The first time we search in Netflix, and I highly suggest people do it, they have brilliant shows. Brainchild is there. I think Who is there. They have really good programs. So everything, even the shows that he watches, like Flash and Arrow and all those things, they go to to that 2 hours. So I think it's important, just because he knows this was the elixir, that it's my clarity that I'm
right.
because we went on a challenge like 5-6 days. They didn't have anything, and he knew that I was, no more, no more. I want
Yeah.
to take it away. I want to return the iPhones. I want to return the Xbox. So he felt it in my,
Yeah.
I mean business this time.
Yeah, when we get clear, and I think it's a big problem, is that there hasn't been, nobody is telling parents, here's the way to do it. Right? I think most parents can get behind, give them a segment of the day that is set aside every day to go have fun on their screen. And then when that's over, it's over. That gives parents clarity. And then I think when we have that clarity, we can stay connected to our kid because we're not scared and second guessing ourselves all the time. And we're not going for that control. We're seeing it as a training process. When it's a training process, there's going to be mistakes, and there's going to be times where, he might not be able to log off, or, might come late, right? And all that means is that he needs a little bit more practice. Maybe the next day we do it 1 hour instead of 2, so that he doesn't get quite so hooked. And then, we try it again. Mm-hmm. So what I talk with families about and the kids is that I think it's really important to develop awareness of the way, so that they can notice it in themselves eventually, because this is the other thing, is that eventually we want them to be able to self-regulate this and not just rely on us to always have these limits, right? So we want to be able to teach them there. I do in my courses, I train the kids and the parents also on these 4 ways that screen time can go awry, and how they can begin to notice the indicators inside of themselves and in their behavior that they are in that dangerous zone, right? So let's take what I call wreck yourself screen time, which is screen time where you're getting harmed. Maybe because, you're interacting with people that are not safe to interact with, or maybe you're in a social media situation where you're feeling really insecure and left out. And because that happens all the time. We haven't talked so much about social media, right? Or maybe these games are, your neck is hurting at the end of it, your eyes are watering, you can't see anything. So because these devices are so engrossing, it can be so easy to lose sight of our own well-being while we're engaging them. And a skill that we and all of our kids need to learn is how to maintain awareness of our emotions, our physical well-being, our mental well-being, even when we're engaging in the devices. So I tell my kids, for example, I had to take myself off of Facebook because 5 minutes in, I could feel insecurity arising in me that I don't normally feel, right? Thoughts of comparisons and feeling left out of things. And I put Facebook back on now that I'm doing all this stuff, but I put it like way in the back screen of my phone so that I have to go search for it to find it. So that's an example that we want our kids to learn to do, so that it's not always you telling them when it's time to get off, but them learning to develop that mindfulness around their own well-being. And I tell the kids, it doesn't mean, you shouldn't do your screen. It just means, usually what it means is you need a break. When you're feeling really insecure, you might need to go be around some people that make you feel good, or maybe some time alone to kind of like, go inward and feel okay in yourself again, right? We have to be able to notice when the screens are affecting us emotionally.
How do you communicate
and I
child about insecurity? Like, what do you tell them to make them become aware? Because this is not, even adults are not aware of it, because it's
right.
so conscious that we feel icky, but we don't know what's going on. So how do you communicate
exactly
with the child?
Well, what I try to do with my kids and get my people who do my courses to do, right, is like to really understand the designs of the device and how they're meant to interact with the brain. Social media, and I talk to my kids this way. It's designed because it knows, those designers know that we have a very innate, hardwired need to belong and to feel connected. We need social approval. Is this choppy? Okay.
Yes, it was choppy.
So chop. So I say, these devices are designed with an understanding that we have a very hardwired need to belong in this world. I mean, we are tribal creatures. It was for survival, for mating. We need to feel like a group accepts us, and especially our preteens and teens, tons of research shows that developmentally, that's even more important for them, and their brains are wired that way at those ages, right? So if we have that innate need, what the social media platforms have done is develop sort of a proxy for that experience. It's a stand-in. And the problem is it can give us great sense of belonging, but it can also very quickly give us the opposite, which is insecurity, left out, and feeling lonely. And so what we have to learn to see, and this is really tough with social media, I don't think kids can really do it until maybe 14, 15, 16, just because the brain isn't developed yet. But our younger kids can see it in action, right? They're in Google Classroom and they know how good they feel when somebody comments on an assignment that they posted or something, right? So you can point out, if you get them young enough, you point out how that's what hooks you onto social media because of the way the brain is designed. So we have to be able to notice, because it's a proxy, it's like a fake version of what we really need. We have to notice when it's not giving us, it's giving us the dark side of that. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean we need to get rid of all of our accounts. It means we need to notice that it's there, and we need to go find that experience somewhere real where it's not just a proxy. We need to call our friend and have them over. I always tell parents, have a pizza party. You know, we can't do it right now, but like, you know, in 6 months from now, like, have some pizza parties. You know, if your preteen is on a lot of social and they're feeling left out and it's, you know, sucking for them there, then what we need to do is create those real life experiences that give them what their brain is so craving, and then tell them overtly why we are doing it, and share with them our own experiences on Facebook, on Instagram, on all these things, so that they see it's not just that they are failing and feel shame about how crappy they feel on their, you know, social media experiences, but that it's a brain chemistry thing. It's a brain wiring thing. These are proxies. These aren't the real thing. And so enjoy them. But when they're not enjoyable, we got to go find the real thing. And we have to be able to notice our internal cues to notice when that's happening. But we start young. We start teaching them when they're just watching Netflix and their neck hurt and their eye hurt. And we say, that's an indicator that you need a break, right? You can go back to it tomorrow, but I want you to be able to drive in a safe way, right?
Beautiful. So if I heard that right, so you're mentioning it all about connection again, all about communication. Just keep telling them and enlighten them with the stuff that at least we know, because some of it we don't even know. But so just about having that beautiful connection and replace it and keep it educating them.
Yeah.
They learn and develop that part of the brain that they can really have that mindfulness.
They can have that awareness. Yeah. And then, I teach in my courses, I teach a skill called urge surfing, which is how do you let those urges for more, because we all get there, right? Next episode, that's my version of it. Next episode, how do you feel those urges and learn how to ride them out and let them go? It's a mindfulness technique. We teach it all over the world of psychology for addictions and for other behaviors, as impulsive behaviors. How do you have urges without acting on them? And that is a skill that we can teach. My 7-year-old gets urge surfing. And in fact, sometimes she's like, Mommy, surf the urge.
So is it allowing yourself a couple of seconds to actually sit with the emotion?
That's right. You learn to feel the urge as like a surfer rides a wave, right? So they feel it, they ride it, they don't push it away, they don't ignore it. They're aware of it, they name it, they feel it, and then they ride out that urge. And it's very empowering for kids, because once they understand the design of the device, they understand how they're kind of being hoodwinked into making these platforms money. And you show them that you can, I call it hacking the hook. Like, you can learn to ride out these urges. Do this on and not need me to always be interfering or intervening. And they get excited because then they're not going to fall prey to, I think are we breaking up here a little bit?
Yeah, it was, but I think I got the core of it. So It's about, because it happened last night. My daughter got my phone, because she doesn't have her phone for 2 months right now. So I always suggest to take everything away for one day or 2 or 3 days, just to detox, so they would know that they're not dependent, especially if they have
Yeah,
an iPhone. So I don't want them to feel that it's an extension of their hands.
that's right.
So
That's an indicator that they're not in healthy screen time, right? When they're always picking it up at every free moment, that is one of the indicators that we are off the road of healthy screen time, and it needs to be dialed back so they can practice that urge surfing.
exactly. So
Yeah.
last night she took my phone for TikTok, and
Okay.
um and she said 10 minutes, so she was on it, and then when 10 minutes was, she would put an alarm, and she said 5 more minutes, and I gave her 5 more minutes, and she said 10 more minutes, and I said, you know what, you will never be satiated. Like,
Right.
it's like 10 hours, you still
Yep.
want more, because this is what addiction is. So it's just all about, we need to
Or
skip.
this is how well it's designed.
Yes.
This is how well it's designed. And because I don't actually use that word addiction with the kids. It implies that they've somehow gotten addicted. And what I like to say is, look how well TikTok is. That's another app I had to erase from my phone. I can't put it down either. So it is designed so well.
I'm not going there, because
Yeah, no, I can't. I mean, my daughter brought it home, and we were both like, oh my God, it's designed. These people are so good at it. So we just want to keep telling our kids, you will never be satiated, because they're so good at their job. And our job is to not let their expertise control our lives. So we have to enjoy it. And then when time is over, we got to get really good at surfing those urges. Yes, you want to continue. I want to continue too. And then we're in it together, we're connected, and we are just practicing a skill set for healthy driving, so to speak, right? We're just practicing how to urge surf, how to get off, and we can do it as a family. My kids call me out on it all the time. Mom, you're getting hooked.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm like, oh God, you're right.
You're right. You're right. I love surfing the urges. Love, love, love.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen this on any academic paper, but I've heard that maximum duration of each feeling is 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you allow it for me, when I have feelings, but every morning I feel my feelings, I cry a couple of drops and I'm good to go. So for me, 20 seconds is enough. So I love to use that tool
for screen time. Yeah. When you get good at it, you realize it's uncomfortable to put it down. It really is. That desire is uncomfortable in the body, but it is only going to last for a few moments. If you can breathe through it and stay on top of the wave. And the more you do it, the easier, the bigger that muscle gets, and the easier it is.
I love it. I love this tool.
So again, it's a tool set that we're, so what I do is I teach this in courses, right? I have a parent course, and then I have a course where I teach it to the kids. So you don't have to do it. It can be heard from Dr. Demi. They can hate me because they'll never see me. You don't have to be the one. And then I walk the kids through a kind of very similar version to what I'm describing here. And I have, exercises that you can take home and give. So you give your kid the 2 hours of screen time, give him a log that he has to do at the end of it to see how he's feeling emotionally, physically, and mentally. Now I'm training him over time. I'm not going to take that away if he reports that he's got a headache, but I'm going to say, look, maybe you can notice where in that 2 hours did that headache come, right? And stop for 15 minutes and give your neck a massage, right? Go drink some water, stretch a little bit, and then hop back on. So now I'm teaching him self-regulation of screen time. And that's what I want for all of our kids. I want them, by the time they're 16, now awareness of their own indicators, their own internal indicators that, it's becoming too much, or they're getting hooked, or they're doing something unsafe, or they're physically being harmed by this, or that their life is getting out of balance. So I have exercises and tools for each of those areas, and I show the kids and the parents how to use them. And then I walk families through what I think is an effective contract. So the rule, and then how to have it turn into a contract that has limits in place that a kid can slowly work their way out of, right? Once they can balance it on their own and log off on their own and tell when it's harming them, then we don't have to have, it's a contract whose goal is no contract, right? Because ultimately I want a 16-year-old to be able to really do this on their own, and they understand it. They have the mindfulness, they have the awareness, they know how to tell when screen time is going down the wrong road, and you've built in the skill set for how to self-regulate it.
Beautiful. So it's for children of all ages?
It is. I mean, the kids course is really built for kids 10 and up, because that's where I can really come in and teach them. But the parent course is for kids all ages. And I encourage, if you've got a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, the earlier you start using this vocabulary, showing them the concepts, now it's built in. By the time they're 12, 13, and they get their own console or their own phone, you have this vocabulary and this foundation of what healthy screen time means, and how to urge surf, and how to notice the cues that your screen time is becoming unhealthy. And the whole family knows that when you see a kid getting out of healthy screen time, it means we're going to dial it back temporarily, re-up those teachings, and then let them try again, just like we would if they were driving a car. So you've got the mechanism in place. As you mentioned at the very beginning, this heats up for preteens and teens. It's easy when our kids are young because we can just take the screens away. But if we just do it that way, we're not actually preparing them for it. And then the preteen years get really hard. Yeah. So parents of all ages, come. And then I can train your kids if you have sort of 10-year-old and up. The younger kids aren't gonna, it's too much for them, you know. We have to kind of go at a different pace for them. So
this was fantastic. We were supposed to talk only for 30 minutes.
God.
But I loved it. I absolutely loved it, because this is what this is doable. This is feasible.
Yes, it is feasible.
So it's, again, going back to ourselves, having that energy, and then really train ourselves and our children how to deal with the beast.
Deal with the beast, exactly. How do we stay healthy when we are constantly interacting with a device that is designed to keep us hooked and distracted and insecure, right? Exactly. It's exact, and we all need this. So I think it's so important. And I think your parents that are part of your community who are already steeped in conscious parenting, this grows out of that. And so you're already 20 steps ahead, and you're ready to be able to take the conscious parenting to the area of screen time. And the course that I teach sort of shows you how to do that. So I've given you kind of the nuts and bolts of it, but of course the course is the course and has, how to do it. So if you're interested, I think our website is on the poster that this was originally.
Can you also leave the comment with the website, with the course?
Yeah. And our next course for kids is going to be, the parent course will be posted in January, and people can take that anytime. But the kid one, I teach live actually. And the next time to join that will be February 15th. So you can get on the waiting, you can purchase it now, because I can only take a certain number of families to do it. But I'll do it live for the kids. I think it's I can't remember the exact date, February 15th or 18th. I'm sure my co-founders are like, she forgot the date, but it's somewhere in mid-February, and it's on our website. And we would love to have, like I said, conscious parents are already 10 steps ahead. So I can take you that next step quite easily and solve screen time in your home, because you really can get to where it's not an issue in my house. We don't argue over screen time. I'm not afraid of it. I know what I'm going to do, and I have a plan for how to get my kids ready to be healthy with it, and a vocabulary and all that. So it's really doable. I want people to have that hope.
Is it?
The parent course you take on your own time. So you can log on and get that. It's about an hour and a half, and you can do it anytime you want. And then you can hop on my Facebook page starting in mid-January. I'll be doing a live Q&A. So I'll be there to answer people's questions if they take the course self-paced. The kids course is 2 weeks. First week is about an hour. Second week is about an hour. So by the end of it, your kid will have all the information, everything I've talked about here, how screen time goes wrong, how to notice it, urge surfing, awareness, understanding about the ground rules for setting up the training. And then I will walk the parents and kids through a contract if you need one in your family, if you don't have one that's working well.
Love it. Love it that it's only 2 hours and 1 hour, because the children,
Yeah, and we're all busy, man. We got a million other things to solve other than screen time. So I'll show you how to solve that. You can go back to the rest of your busy life, So yeah, super short.
Good. So my kids and I will jump in. Thank you so much for joining me.
So great to have to meet you, and thank you for having me. And I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arayeh. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everyone, I hope this was useful. It was really useful for me because, intuitively I've been doing this and I'm so excited right now. So maybe I just, just come on, maybe next week I won't be here, but yes, next week, no videos, by the way, but hopefully soon we can have a discussion about this in the group, the Parents from Love. Join us over there if you want to take this further. And I'm very excited about this course, and hopefully I see some of you there, some of your children there. And please send me any questions for further videos. We're going to talk about a lot more things, not just parenting. I hope you enjoyed the information here, and I wish you a great holiday wherever you are, and I wish you're happy, healthy, and safe. All my love. Bye now.